What's up, guys? Tambo here with your Week 6 core report. It's an exciting time to be a Run Pure Sports member as we parlay another big week of winning with the start of the NBA season. Here's a recap of last week. No sports were off limits for winners this past week. Relay 20 hit for $8K on the NASCAR slate. Brad Combe won $5K in an MLB playoff slate. Max Hankins gave a preview of what members can expect, shipping for $21,000 in NBA preseason. Big T had another big week, hitting for over $37,000 in CFB. For the NFL main slate, GK 2400 won over $10K on FanDuel, while our guy Locks shipped an NFL Live final seat. But the biggest wins came on Monday Night Football, when the top of the leaderboard was littered with RPS logos again. JSU led the way with his core plays featuring Captain Austin Eckler and Justin Herbert and Joshua Palmer in the flex. His winning lineup was topped off with Russell Wilson and Dustin Hopkins, as well as low-owned $200 Greg Dulcich, who was talked up big on our free Monday Night Football Showdown show by special guest Chris Rando.
He's fast. He runs like a 4.7 40, and he can actually play the slot. He gives very difficult matchup situations. He's fast. He's got hands. Don't be surprised tonight if maybe he's out there in the mix and, he gets, a few catches and, who knows what happens.
This is your weekly reminder to head on over to our YouTube page and hit subscribe to access all of our great free content. Our guy Johnny AirPods wasn't the only one repping RPS at the top, shipping for over $50K. Matt Attack Lax ran the same lineup twice, shipping for over $95,000. Phil Mike's Bra also shipped for $10,000, while Nuggets hit for $14,000. Now is the time to join us. Head on over to runpuresports.com and sign up for a membership today. Again, all sports are included for one price, and NBA starts this week. You won't want to miss out when our team gets hot during hoop season. Remember, if you're not winning with us, you're watching us win. Till next time, let's keep running pure.
The Print Factory, it lives on Mondays. Welcome to it. I'm JT Hayes, Run Pure Sports. Listen, before we go any further, you don't want to hear me talk about the like button, and I don't want to talk about the like button. So just hit the like, hit the subscribe. We've been getting about 1,000 likes from the live crew. Let's see if you guys can keep up. We do have a special guest today. More on how much more of a mystery this was supposed to be in just a couple of minutes. But first, let me bring in our guest. He is one of the best DFS players in the world. He's also the co-host of the LOLs podcast, the username Brick75. Brian Hooper. Brian, welcome to the Print Factory. How are you doing today?
I'm a little sick, honestly. I almost canceled on you guys, but I'm trying to be a pro and mow through it here. But can't complain that much, right? Life's good. Big T asked me to sign a one-show contract with Run Pure Sports, and here I am. I don't know why everyone's all excited. Got all worked up over a one-show contract, Big T, but
that's what happens when you cover astrology and winners and get all. I mean, you just had another Millie Maker on the laws last week, right? You guys had my boy Ricky D on there, and then he ships the Millie yesterday. So
yeah, it's we hope the run good would go the other way, and we get rub it off you guys and take it for ourselves. But Ricky D, our guy, he's got at least 2 in the books. He might have more than that actually. But yeah, Ricky D had to. I DM'd him yesterday. He took down the 4-4-4-4. I don't know. I think the main Millie was. I don't think a pro, right? Like, I didn't recognize the name.
I didn't recognize it either.
An interesting lineup there. And we're all excited because what they didn't tell you, Brian, is that it is one show, but it's going to last for 72 hours. So we're going to be on here. We're just going to pick your brain incessantly. And last night, I was out early to watch the Bengals absolutely shellac the Falcons. So I'm at the bar, watching the games, come home, watch a little bit of the Yankee game. I'm getting ready. I'm laying in bed, and I get a text from Big T, and he says, hey, we're doing this. This guy Brick is going to come on tomorrow. I said, I know, I've listened to his podcast a time or two. And he goes, all right, don't say anything because it's going to be a surprise. I said, all right, that's great. Don't have to worry about me because I'm laying in bed. No problem. I'm tossing, I'm turning. 5 minutes later, I look, I have 3 more messages. I go, what? He's tweeted out that you're coming on this show. So the mystery lasted for all of like 3.5 minutes. Big T, Tony Niehaus, how are you doing? You're doing everything here, right? You're playing, you're giving out your entire player pool, and now you're a booking agent for RPS, getting this exceptional talent to come on and talk with us. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I was going to make it a surprise, but as I was talking more with Brick, it just seemed like a better way to sign him to this deal, sign him to this massive Run Pure deal, get him on board. So we went a different route after I sent the first text to you, but either way, excited to have him on. I know a lot of people around the industry try to get us fighting different times. I know the one day I get a tweet that somehow I was saying something or other when I knew I didn't, because I know I do talk trash to people. But I know when I directly call people out, and I hadn't done that with my man Brick because I do respect he doesn't do it how I do it. I'd say we're very different how we win, but I know he's a winning player. I know I'm a winning player, and it just shows you that you can win from many different directions playing DFS and poker for that matter. I know he was in poker before as well. So I've always respected what they do. I like their show. I watch it. Usually they do it on Wednesdays if you guys want to check it out. I like it because they bring different people on and different thoughts throughout the time, usually Millie Maker winners. But I've always liked it. I personally like other people that are successful in the industry, whether it's Brick or Awesemo, Whistles. I've talked to and hung out with a ton of these guys. Just because they think differently than me, I like that. And I know they're winning players. So it's always fun to get them on shows like this, and we can go at it from different angles. He's more of a numbers optimization type player. At least I think he can talk as we go through it. But I'm more of a feel, as everyone knows. And I think we can cover some stuff in a nice, fun way, though.
Could I really quick? We actually moved to Thursdays just for people looking for the show. Doesn't matter. You can go on Pete's channel, and it's Lulz. Not that it matters if you spell it out or differently. You'll find it either way. But we say Lulz Thursdays, and that beef though. You were very complimentary to, but I do have to say, you didn't really back up your buddy.
Oh, I can't control other people what they're saying. They can chirp all they want.
You can defend a little bit better. Like
I would have defended you, but I'm not going to defend someone that. First of all, I like Pete. I play with him, but he doesn't play anything, and I don't. It is what it is.
Well, that's why Hoops.
What am I going to say? I guess
Hoops comments didn't really make any sense, anyways, just because it's not like Pete runs a content site where he gives out DFS projections or anything. If he touts anything, which I don't even think he's a tout really, he's just an entertainment guy. He does season long in best ball, and I don't know if you know, he took 9th in the best ball monster last year too. So he wins in the things he talks about, but it's more he literally is a sports talk show host, right? He's got a show on Sirius Radio now, so he's good
at what he does for sure.
The whole reason that kind of started was because Hoop kind of called him out for no reason, and it didn't even.
I've heard some backhanded comments too, though. I'm not afraid to just talk about it. I've heard backhanded comments from Pete too, where I'm not watching. Why would I watch their shows? I'm not watching that. I'm not doing this. I've heard some backhanded comments, so it wasn't just Hoop just throwing it out of nowhere.
Well, maybe, but I think some of those comments were after Hoop goes.
Could be.
So you might want to get because he doesn't really even talk about.
I've always got along good with Pete, so
well, that's why you probably should back him up a little bit.
I'm not going to get involved with other people's stuff, though. I'll control what I say, but people can do what they want.
But hey, you brought it up. That's the first thing you brought up.
No, so I'm good with it. I like stuff like this. I'm fine with it.
I'm just saying that's what. And so when on our show there was guys in chat, and you know how chat gets, right? Saying
I know you can say it in there. Our boy Petty, because I've talked to Petty over there. He always likes to stir the pot.
It wasn't just Pat. It wasn't just Pat.
Petty was the main guy.
He was the main guy. It was Petty, the main guy stirring shit up. But So I'm like, okay, here comes. I'm gonna watch this Run Pure show, and these guys are just gonna be shitting on us for an hour. And it wasn't that at all. But just to defend my guy a little bit more, I don't know. It's just like maybe they have their own thing or something, like you're saying, but
I don't think it's even anything.
It doesn't make any sense on like a DFS show to call out Peter Overzet like I don't know, like he said stuff like I don't know why anyone would listen to him. It's like is Pete going out there going like, here's my projections and here's my blah blah blah, you got to do this and this is the play of the week and the play of the month or anything even close to that? And like the only thing he kind of might do is like the season long and pickup leagues and stuff on ship chasing and stuff like that. Like he goes out of his way not to make lists. Like he won't make even season long lists and projections. So and he's in conversation with all these Millie Maker winners and stuff every week in and week out. So of course he's going to discuss strategy here and there, but he's never even portrayed himself as this take giver and an edge haver that he's going to make you $1 million. He doesn't even have a site where he charges for his info. So I don't know, that part didn't make any sense. But then when I looked at, you were obviously very complimentary. And I was expecting to go in there based on what Petty said and other people like Big T's talking mad shit. And so, and like you said, a lot of this is fun. You've had some trolls.
Everything I do is fun. Unless someone comes directly at me, I'm just having fun. As everyone knows, I'm having a good time with this.
Okay.
Stuff.
Well, I mean, I've said my piece, but that was the whole story as I saw it.
We definitely have a couple of guys who like to get into the mix on Twitter. Big T is not so much one of those. Neither am I. I kind of like to sit back and see what people are saying. I'm not out there trying to, stir things up. But Brick, we'll move on here because I do think it's an important conversation. I mentioned to you before we came on that I listened to a couple of your podcasts. You've got some interesting guests. You talk about some interesting topics. It was probably one of the more, I guess, infamous podcasts that came out about this industry in the last couple of years when Chess is Okay introduced us to the 80-hour DFS work week, which I thought was fantastic. But it was one of those same podcasts where you said basically, you're not a huge sports fan. You're not going to go out of your way to watch a baseball game for sure in the middle of summer. You're not, if you go out on Sunday, you'll watch some football games with the boys, but you're not setting your schedule so much around a particular game, matchup, etc. Obviously, the schedule sets around the slate. Talk to us a little bit about that and how you get to a comfortability point of the plays that you're making. Is it projections, ownership? What are the things that you're looking at? Because we look at those same things. And Tony is being a very humble here because he used to be much more dedicated to just the feel. And now, as we've seen, and he's been just doing great over the last couple of years, he'll take that feel and just use that and put it into the optimizer and say, all right, I think this guy's going to do this. How well does he have to do in order to hit these builds? And that's a much more complex topic. But talk to us a little bit about your mindset, how you've gotten to the point you're at of being so successful up at the top on any given night in any sport.
Well, I think I was a gigantic sports fan for 95% of my life. And so I still do watch Red Zone on Sundays, MMA on Saturdays, and then PGA here or there. But not nearly as much as I did in my youth. Know every single player on every single team and everything that's happening, listening to sports talk radio constantly. So I just lost that fandom and that kind of passion. But I still, honestly, I played up a little bit. I probably know more about sports than 99.9% of the population. And I think we do kind of live in this bubble, all of us, this gambling world where if you talk to some normal person, drawn randomly out of the hat, they wouldn't have any clue what we're talking about a large percentage of the time. Couldn't name one player on the team, right? Especially if that pool was the world. But I still, knowing players and stuff like that still helps in building models and playing the way I play. on a whole bunch of different ways that doesn't really matter too much, but like you could think of was like matching player names up. Like the one like what I in soccer would be like Chicharito, the soccer player, right? He's got like Javier Hernandez have Enyes on them. Sometimes they don't. And just matching up all these names in your database, it's just a huge pain in the ass. Which is one of the reasons I stopped doing soccer. But what I wanted to do when I first started playing DFS was not make as many decisions as I did in poker. And when I played poker for a living for about 7 years, and I just was sick of making constant guesses and decisions. And I wanted to do it from a pure stats level and let that information do the work for me and take out any bias, as much bias as I can, because even building models, you have your own bias in there. It's more scientific, like, you know, being a weatherman as opposed to like feeling how your bones ache, you know, like is like a way I describe it too. But there is still some like guesswork in there, but I wanted it to be the least amount possible that I can, where I could just plug and play and just live with the results. And that was been my whole goal from the start. And that's what I do. And that's what I've always done. I rarely make adjustments based on my feeling, but I do it. And also I'm not trying to persuade anyone to play this way. So it's just like the way I want to play.
So two things, and then I'll bring it over to Big T for his thoughts. The first thing is when you say you don't want to make as many decisions, right? And the bias thing, I totally understand, right? The bias is kind of like, I'm looking at my lineups and I see a guy and I'm like, Jesus, that guy sucks, right? But they're going to have good days. They're professional athletes. They're at that level, and every now and then they're going to outperform their expectation. That's where you're trying to catch them. The other thing that I heard you say is talking about people capping ownerships, that you think people arbitrarily cap ownerships way too much. And so thought process on that a little bit in terms of setting up your player pool. And just like you were saying, letting the projections tell you how often a guy is going to do well in those lineups and just letting it go.
You're on mute.
What's that? Were you asking me?
Well, no, I was asking Brian.
Oh, I thought you started that with Tony.
My fault.
No, I was going to bring it back to him after that because I want to get his thoughts on these topics too.
I'm serious with that. I spaced out that whole time, brother. Sorry.
Just your thoughts on. I know I've heard you talk about capping ownership, and
okay,
the people maybe arbitrarily cap ownership way too much, and that you're much more of a, hey, this is what the projection says, and if the projection system believes that I should have him in 100% of my lineups, I'm going to leave him in 100% of my lineups.
So I don't cap at all because I don't use an optimizer. I have all my own proprietary stuff that I had built myself or for me. And so it wouldn't even come up. But like, I think my main argument kind of, and just generally speaking, is how do you quantify that someone's a good player or a bad play? Like if you look at someone who's chalky and let's say they're 40% owned, how do you know that's bad or not? How are you quantifying this? And the answer is the vast majority of people are just guessing. They really don't know. And they're just playing with numbers. And so like all I'm like advocating for is like at least try, you know, if you do want to try to win money going about it this way, try to figure out how to quantify when should you go over, when should you go under? Does it have to do with the lineup as a whole? Or when does it not? Now that could be just listening to someone else and take their plays. And I'm not saying don't do that either, but I'm saying, how would you come up with this guy's a good player, this guy's not a good player? This is the whole astrology bit that we do, is because most of the time, to me, it's just guys going like, oh, because you know Venus is this far in the sky today, that's why I'm going to play this guy. Like, because the cornerback is sleeping with his the safety's wife, so they're not going to cover well together this week. So like shit like that. Like, okay, I guess maybe that's true. And honestly, some of that stuff actually can be useful. Like if you have like Levitan, he probably has some inside contacts. Who knows? Silva, they might know some folks
Sure.
actually at the organization, that's not what I'm talking about, like some inside knowledge. But like most people, they just look at these players and they're just, it's just complete bias guessing. And so like, what I'm trying to do is quantify. How do I quantify what matters here? What doesn't matter? And so like, a showdown, same thing, like what we're playing tonight. Yeah. Big T makes this point where he's like, yeah, regular people don't want to like lose all the time. And I agree. Like, it's tough when you play some of these low owned, low dupe lineups. They suck. They're embarrassing to enter. Mm-hmm. But like, how do you quantify when that lineup is so bad it's not worth it, or it's so dupey? It's like last night. Like what was the first place? $800 for first place. Mm-hmm. And so like, honestly, in my opinion, if an amateur player played last night and they look on their phone like, oh my God, I finally did it, I got first. And then they click and they go $800. They might not fucking play again. You know what I mean? So someone like Big T going like, listen, it's okay to dupe, but just don't dupe so much. Like at least keep that in your mind. And over time, this is the advice I always give on LOLs, quantify how you're duping. Like if you're making lineups that you think are going to get like 5 or 10 dupes and they're getting 150 and 200 every time, you're going to have to switch it up. And like, that's a skill level you can develop. Much easier, I think, than you can, just like watching football. Like, this is my opinion. Most people, 99% of people, I don't think can just watch football and then win at DFS. There are a couple people, like we mentioned Petty earlier. This is how he beats NBA. So it is possible. I just think that's like in the 0.01%. I probably couldn't do it, so I don't do it that way. And like I said, I just kind of lost the passion for constant sports watching, like I did back in the day. So I couldn't even do it even if I wanted to because I don't have the motivation. So I don't know. I hope that kind of answers your question.
It does. And it's a fair point because ultimately you want to give yourself the best chance to get to the top. Getting to the top means having a unique lineup, even if it's duped, it's not duped, like you said, 150, 200 times. Tony, I want to bring you into this conversation and these concepts because it's one of the things that you've talked about. Now, there are some people on Twitter, to be fair, when they see the Run Pure Sports lineups and it's duped 15 or 20 times in a showdown, and that still means a good $30,000 or $40,000. They're hammering us. Oh, you guys play the chalk. You guys play all these. And what they're doing is, to some degree, I get it, right? In some of these larger field, but in a showdown, it's really difficult to say, like last night, Raheem Mostert is getting all of the volume on this team out of the backfield. He's getting passing work. He's not a bad play. Even though he's going to be highly owned, he's not. It just doesn't mean that he's a bad play. And what I've heard you and Hoop, and now I've thought of in terms of how I build my lineups is you got to take stands. And if you believe that these are the best plays, it doesn't matter if they're 50% owned, play them at 80%. Talk about that. Talk about your thoughts on Brick's strategy here as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's like I said, there's more than one way to win. And I think the part that a lot of people are missing, and really good players like Brick and Whistles and some of the people, Awesemo, people like that are more numbers based. Casual people, I mean, we see them in our chat. So Brick gave the example, like somebody might not play again. I think it's quite the opposite, just from seeing all the screenshots in the Discord and stuff where I bet we had 40 plus people, which again went, because in my core last night, I put Mostert captain. So it was the team. And obviously these days, a lot of people follow my cores on there. So it happens. And it was 2 teams too, because the kicker and the defense both scored 12 last night. So it kind of, that last pick brought it together. But these people are ecstatic to win $800 off 20 or 40. And then they can play for the next couple weeks off that 800, where, I mean, 99% of people are playing for fun, for entertainment, instead of going to the movies. That's the example we always use, at least. So, I mean, when they're profiting and they're not having to get that credit card from their wife to put more money on there, I think they're very, very happy and they feel sharp. They can tell all their buddies today at work, like, I finished first last night, even for $800. Because like before DFS, a lot of people, and people still do bet a ton. But like what? You put $50 on the Monday Night Football game. If you win 50. There's no real upside to that. Whereas you put $50 on DFS, If you lose, you lose, because when you're betting, it's a similar thing, but you actually have some upside. And it's hard to quantify. Like last night, there was a two-way chop for 200K that was very similar build, honestly, to the massive chop. And it hurt last night because, like I said, multiple teams end up scoring the exact same points, and there wasn't many fantasy points, so all the combos kind of led to the same thing. But similar build. I don't remember the exact build without looking, but it was 200 for that until the last play of the game. An interception turns it into $800. Sorry for those two souls. I don't remember who the two were, but Showdown can be brutal, and I don't know, like, and you don't know how much you're gonna dupe when you're putting these teams in. We make a lot of jokes about it. I obviously don't want as many dupes. Sure, I play it up on Twitter, and I'm like, if you win, you win. And I do agree with that in a way. But me personally, obviously, if I can dupe or non-dupe, I'm going to choose non-dupe. We've talked on all these shows a ton how to do it. Leave salary, do different things with your roster construction where maybe you're not playing a quarterback with a receiver, all the stuff we've talked about on these past shows. But sometimes it just comes down. Like tonight, it's going to be tough again, because if it's a low-scoring game and there's just not that many things you can do without just getting crazy. So, like, say you want non-dupes tonight, you're going to have to leave salary, and your team's going to, like Brick said at the very beginning when he was talking, like, you're going to have to make a team that looks so ridiculous to be able to get non-dupe tonight. And casual people that are paying Run Pure or Osimo or whatever they're paying for their subscription, they don't want to go in there and do that. Even though there's a chance of hitting big, they would much rather just have a rock-solid team that gives them a chance to win. Maybe it's dupe, maybe it's not. We've seen tons. I mean, I think I've solo shipped, I have no idea, 9 or 10 solo shippers on showdowns between FanDuel and DK. Doing it the same way, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but the most basic thing I can say is I don't think casual people can build the way Brick does. He's just sharp. Like, Brick's a sharp dude. Osimo's a sharp dude. Like, casual people can't go into an optimizer and even figure out how to get unique by themselves. Sure, we can give strategies and different things, but people don't have time to figure that stuff out. So I think just building rock solid teams and giving them a good chance to win has a lot of benefit for casual people.
And it is tough if you're making 3 to 5 lineups to get to that. To get to that really unique lineup, it's like you understand that you should be doing that. But like you said, if you're a casual player, $75, who's going to get the most points, right? That's what people are trying to do and not really thinking about things that we talk about, game script, things like that. We've got 675 watching, only 190 likes. Let's get that number up there. Once again, runpuresports.com. Check us out. You'll get Big T's core and his entire player pool for every showdown here. You mentioned it, not a lot of points to go around last night. Doesn't look like there's going to be a lot of points to go around tonight. I don't know how this game got on Monday night, but here it is, and there's a big prize pool tonight. The Bears going into New England. Chicago, 16 points implied. New England, 24.5. New England favored by 8.5. 40.5 point total, and New England a minus 350 favorite at home. Their defense, 3 straight games with over double-digit points. In case those of you wondering about the weather, it's going to be beautiful in Foxborough, upper 50s tonight. Brick, Lee, any thoughts on this game environment as a whole? Do you focus on, are you a guy that will go overboard on playing defenses, kickers, when you see that you've got a 40 total that's come down a little bit with 2 teams that struggle to move the ball? What are you thinking about? Overall thoughts on this game?
Well, I mean, and that sounds like a broken record, but like seriously, all my stuff is done through simulations and seeing what the data spits out. So I don't adjust that at all. I don't care if it's because it's already built in, right? The Vegas totals and that stuff's already in there. So I don't go in there and adjust it further because that's double counting, right? Since it's already in there. And it really is just completely slate dependent, especially on showdowns. So like, I don't know, you guys mentioned kickers. So like, so I did do a run before the show, just for the show, and I am getting a decent amount of kickers. So like now some of this stuff, we're talking about like the Big T strategy versus my strategy. Like someone who does watch constantly can kind of get that, ideally, this is probably going to be a slate like that tonight. So like you can get these things from watching. And Big T said like there's no way to quantify it. Like, so again, I'm not trying to persuade anyone. I don't care what you guys do. Just keep doing your run Pierce sub, not you guys, the people listening, and keep doing his core plays. It's perfectly fine. I'm not trying to persuade anybody, but you can't like just think of it this way. Like the lineups yesterday that Big T mentioned, the first place one that got screwed at the end was identical, I believe, to the ones that duped 1,000 times. They just had like one player switched or the captain was switched. Those two lineups that lost are just so much better equity wise that if you do want to not have your wife care, you want to do that shit because when you bring home 200 fucking K, she won't give a shit. She'll probably fucking blow you all fucking day. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on.
What Big T says.
Isn't this show about the workbench? Are you going to get on the workbench for $800?
200K will definitely get you to the bench for the record.
$800 isn't going to get you anywhere. Come on.
Yeah.
So like,
might get you to first base or so. You might get a little reach or something before bed.
Maybe breakfast in the morning to prepare for the next slate. We'll see.
Some eggs as you wake up.
Yeah. So like, okay, you guys enjoy your 800. All right. Like I think just so like, and we have to like, we're talking in such broad strokes. Yeah. The complete amateur guy who doesn't give a shit, who will flip a coin and bet on a team. Right. Yeah. Of course, they're not going to put any work, but the guys who sub to Run Pure and watch these shows and stuff, I'm sure that they can put in a little work and you could flip around the captains and give yourself a little less shot of duping so much. You can get like a slightly owned, get less owned guy. You could get less salary cap. These are all obvious things, and just think of it in that terms. It does. It's like completely bullshit to say that like the no dupe crew as on my team, that we're trying to get one dupe every time. We're trying to make the best fucking teams that don't split a billion fucking ways.
Well,
so we can have a chance to get on the
just so people can understand though, because I think a lot of people watching don't fully even know what we're even talking about. Like, what's the first thing you do just to like make yourself to get rid of those dead obvious teams that are going to be duped? Well, like, what's your process as far as that?
Okay. Well, I mean, I wish I could show you guys. Well, I can't tell you because I don't want to tell the way I do it specifically. But like, if you were going to use an optimizer, you can try to implement a strategy of those three things I just said with like some sort of low salary cap. Figure out when product ownership instead of total team ownership. Like who's in the captain slot, and then just sort by RPS's projections and cut out the bottom. Just don't put in the dog shit teams. But you also don't want to put in the clearly gonna be duped teams. So like if you're putting in the time and you're paying for an RPS subscription, you're paying for an optimizer subscription, you're making 150 fucking lineups, you can do this. Like, you know what I mean? So like, unless you're getting the Run Pure Sports for free and you're just taking Big T's picks and putting it in there, fine. Which by the way, I do actually flip coins and bet on sports. It's fun. I love gambling. That's another thing, people like, just because I don't watch baseball every day anymore doesn't mean I don't like betting on baseball or gambling. Like I gamble every day, obviously, but like even in my, what would you even call it? Is there a distinction here between my professional life and private life? So like I'll bet on the MMA games. So like if you're putting in that time, you can make those slight changes. I know we're bouncing in between the slate and, theory here at this point. So like, as of right now, Nick, Folk and Santos are probably going to be in a healthy 20% of my 150. And I'll give one more tip from what I'm seeing tonight here too. Like it's important to stay up to the last update on showdowns, the very last update of whoever you sub to. So Run Pure Sports, you want their last update and say, okay, here's our last update. And you probably do it about 45 minutes before lock, I would guess, Big T, on showdowns. You want that because it's very important. Those backup tight ends and shit, as everyone who here is watching knows, backup tight ends on Thursday Night Football and shit have been scoring like crazy, right? You got to know who's going to get that one catch, those two catches, things like that. And the guys who get ruled out right at the end are non-actives. It's super important on Showdown when you're playing these huge fields, let's make another distinction, T, is small field, big field. I'm talking 120,000 opponents. If you're playing 100 opponents or whatever, you don't need to do any of that shit. You could probably put in Big T's optimal and have a shot at a single. So like, know what GPP you're in. And then if you're in these huge ones, you got to wait till last lock, see who's roll out. And you're probably going to need a sprinkling of these random dudes, random backup tight ends and stuff like that. And you're trying to get lucky. You're just trying to get lucky and hope that they're the ones who get that random backup tight end touchdown. And then that's how you ship, solo or ship, sometimes 3, 5, 10, 20. And I didn't look at my dupes last night, but even the bad ones slip in there. Like I'll have 100 here or there, something like that. So it's a science, but like it's give or take. So I don't know. That was the longest answer possible to I'm playing 20%, 25% kickers tonight.
Quick follow-up to that, just because you mentioned checking in, 45 minutes before your simulations. We partner with SaberSim. Run the Sims is out there. They're updating. So in terms of that last update, what would you say if you're using a simulated optimizer that is running Sims constantly, right? You obviously want to run it after inactives come out because that's huge, right? You want to make sure you don't have any of those guys in there. How much does it change from the time when, let's say, 5 minutes after all the inactives are announced to up to lock? So 8:15 lock. Are you doing your last run at 8 o'clock, 8:05?
Mine's different because I'm doing multiple sized contests, and like I just said, I have to redo all my stuff for each size. So It depends on how quick I can get it all done, and I'm using like a cloud-based PC system and stuff like that, and it depends on how fast that's going. But like literally up until 5 minutes before lock, I might be getting in a contest specific update in. And if I don't do that, I just have to put in like the closest to it.
Understood.
And do my best. Yeah.
Understood. So Big T, we'll take it over to you. We'll talk quickly about these teams. Looks like Mac Jones is going to be back here for the Patriots. Got Justin Fields on the other side. Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar are questionable. Damian Harris is due back here for the Patriots. It's been the Ramondre show the last couple of weeks, 2 really good weeks, but now not sure if Harris is going to cut in at least a little bit into that productivity. And then on the Chicago side, everyone's been getting involved to a degree. Khalil Herbert, 7 rushes for 75 last week, was significantly outsnapped by David Montgomery, but actually more production than him. Cole Kmet showed that he's kind of alive. A lot of people wanted him to be a thing earlier in this season. And then the receivers, it seems like they're all getting involved. Dante Pettis getting involved, Darnell Mooney, Equinemius St. Brown. We know all about the athletic genes of the St. Brown family. And then on the Patriots side, you've got Hunter Henry with a breakout game, if you want to call it that, for the Patriots with a touchdown last week. And then all of their receivers, Jonnu Smith, the backup there, Devontae Parker, and Jacoby Myers. So what are you looking at in terms of captain ownership, in terms of where you're leaning at captain? And in my opinion, a little tougher to side with the Chicago defense here on the road. But man, that Patriots defense has looked stout. As I mentioned, 3 games in a row over double-digit fantasy points. And Nick Folk has some really, really good props here in terms of kicking points, field goals, PATs. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so full disclosure, like I fade a lot more players than like Whistles and Brick, and I'm sure Brick plays everybody and doesn't, because his system's going to show him who to play. I like to take stands, and the last couple low scoring games like this, I just think the defenses are the worst plays. And this Patriots defense tonight is going to be so high. They might be 40-50% owned tonight. Everybody saw the Bears play last Thursday versus Washington. Looked absolutely horrific. One of the worst games of the year. Before that was the Colts and a bunch of Broncos games in prime time. People are going to be all over this Patriots defense. They could be over 10% even in the captain tonight, which is just insane to me. So right away, if you're able to throw them out and they don't score a touchdown, sure, they could still hit the winner if they don't score a touchdown. But if they don't score, I mean, you're eliminating a ton of the field, kind of what Brick was talking about with getting rid of a lot of those teams. You're going to get rid of 35% of the field, in my opinion, if they don't score. I don't see them. I don't know. That's how I go about getting different in my own way. Sure, sometimes it's dupes, but in kickers too. I mean, tonight could be just insane. Like Folk's going to be over 30%. The Patriots D is going to be over 30. Bears D, I mean, you're right. They won't be as owned, but this game's so low scoring, they could even end up 15, 20%, which seems crazy when New England's just going to run the ball. The Bears do not want to even pretend to stop the run. New England likes to run. So I think we got a pretty big edge tonight. Everyone just saw Stevenson. Last Sunday, he was like one of the chalkiest plays of the year. And he got there at the very end where I think he was at like 18, and then he scored a touchdown the last drive to get to like 25. But everyone's just going to want to play Stevenson. And New England, if there's anything we've learned the last 5-6 years or even longer maybe, no one knows what Belichick's going to do. He's always loved Damian Harris. Why can't Damian Harris come in here, dominate? He's going to be – I bet he's a lower-owned captain tonight than the Patriots defense, as crazy as that is. I think that's the stand I want, these running backs, but it won't be Stevenson as much. Like Stevenson will probably be 3 times higher owned in the captain, 2 or 3 times higher owned than Damian Harris, when I truly think it's like 50-50. It's always been 50-50 for those two. Just because he was out, I don't think anything's changed. And another edge too tonight, just basic stuff as we go through it, but Justin Fields has looked horrific. He's going to be so high on too. So another way you could get different is not play Fields. I'm not saying I'm going to full fade him because I won't. He's got rushing upside. He's the quarterback the other way. If they're playing from behind, so many things work in his favor. But if you just say you built a team, this is kind of how I look at it. But say you play 3 of the 4 running backs, which I think Herbert for Chicago is a pretty good, like you said last week, 7 for 70 or something. Plus, he catches the ball a little bit here and there. He's got touchdown equity, all that. But just say you set a rule in your optimizer or if you're hand building, 3 of the 4 running backs, you fade fade Fields in a build like that. You're well on your way to being unique. And if you play these running backs and fade New England's defense, I think that's enough, because that's just not standard. Like the Sims, if you play both running backs, it's going to want you to play the D most times. I mean, Britt can talk more too about that, because honestly, I don't know. I'm not as sharp with that kind of stuff. But I would assume if you have a build that both running backs get there, the defense would have to be a somewhat decent play in that mix. But for me, I really like Damian Harris as kind of my leverage type play to the field. I think he'll be under 10% in the captain, and I think he's most likely of anybody to end up in the winning captain that could be somewhat unique.
Talk about the possibility of playing Stevenson and Harris in the same lineup. The reason why the Bears allowing 26 PPR points to opposing running backs per game, right? 26 points per game. You figure with the rushing attack, you mentioned it, Belichick wants to take the air out of the ball here, and expect to see the same type of defensive game plan from Belichick that he deployed against the Browns. He wanted to stop the rushing attack. He wanted to force them to throw the ball. I think that's exactly what you're going to see here. They want the ball in Justin Fields' hands. They're probably going to put a spy on Fields, and they want to make him make throws, put the ball up for grabs. So thoughts on Stevenson and Harris in the same lineup and getting basically 75% of the total offensive production of New England's offense?
Yeah. That's to me.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I have a bunch of that showing up here. Harris and Stevenson in the same lineup. Harris is my, like, it looks like he's going to be one of my higher owned guys. I'm like 3x on captain on him. Actually, I most of what Big T was suggesting there is what the Sims are telling me too. I'll be no captaining both defenses and well under on both of them. And
don't they have to be just terrible plays according to the Sim? I'm not saying they won't get there because it is an ugly game. Oh, yeah. Don't they just have to be bad plays?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I try not to do that. I try not to go put my listen, I'm in Chicago, right? I've been a Bears fan my whole life, and I know they suck balls. I can't put that in there, right? Like it's gonna ruin everything I do. So like I try to just let it tell me what to do. But yeah, it totally agrees with you. And just like piggyback on another thing T said is he's full fading the defenses. So like if you're doing I don't know, what are we calling this? Like just opto bro kind of hand building, Xing guys out. I think that's a fine strategy because it's really hard to quantify it. And you should be under. It's actually not the end of the world to just X them completely out. Because what my sim does is it says, okay, you should still play a little bit of Bears and a little bit of Pats, but just in these combinations of lineups. Right. And it's a lot harder for someone who's not doing it this way to like come up with that. So I'm not opposed to, again, that's your strategy of doing that. And then here's another thing, T, to a way to get unique is kind of the opposite of what you said. So like Justin Fields, no receivers.
Yeah.
Because what a lot of guys they'll do is they'll go to their optimizer. They'll go minimum one wide receiver, enter, build me 150 lamps, enter. Right. And so like now you just all those opto bros you're going to be different with. And look, the top lineup for my sim that I just ran before the show. And by the way, this will be different, of course. Like I said, wait till all the info's in for showdowns. Like, listen to this lineup. So you got Montgomery at captain. Okay. He's not that high owned as far as captains go, but he's not nothing, right? It's Montgomery. He could get you points. And then it's got the Harris Stevenson combo. Same lineup. All three of these running backs, just like Big T said. Santos, kicker, right? Fields with no wide receivers from the same team. And then whoever that guy who's going to get one catch in. Mm-hmm. So in this, it's got Kevin Harris. Who knows if he'll even be on the, who knows what's going to happen come. But like this lineup is not going to be duped. It's got a bunch of studs, studs, quote unquote. This is the Bears.
High volume guys.
Yeah. So like this is this is a lineup I would never build if I was clicking names and I had biases and stuff like that. But now this one's a little bit, your wife's going to be pissed at you. And I get it. You don't want to enter something like that, but like, at least it's got all these pieces, that work together where they give you a chance, but also you're just not fucking taking the optimal and sticking it in there, duping with 1,200 guys, So yeah, there's
the context behind Fields with no wide receivers, other than it's being unique, is the rushing capability that Fields has. The prop on him over 42.5 rushing yards, a -125 favorite. So they think that they're going to get into the backfield. He's going to be able to escape. He's going to be able to do some damage with his legs. And as I talked about when I was talking about all these wide receivers getting involved, it's Pettis, it's St. Brown. It's not him locked on Mooney like it was last season. That's last season. That is certainly not happening this year. Darnell Mooney has been a big disappointment so far throughout the season, mostly because of his quarterback. Brick, I'll stay with you here in terms of captains. You mentioned Montgomery. You mentioned being over the field on Harris. Could you envision, or better question, do your Sims right now envision a world where it's a Nick Folk or Cairo Santos captain night?
Barely. It's got we got 1% Folk and 0 Santos in my 150 as of right now.
It's got to like never hit on the Sims though, right? Like ever.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it does. Unfortunately, that what was it 2 weeks ago or whatever had the double kickers. It didn't, unfortunately. Yeah. So.
I mean, well, one thing I think I do is I use the numbers more than people realize for sure. I'll always look at what is projections around the industry, and then just if I feel strongly about stuff, I'll just super bump them. Like I know the one everyone talked about, the showdown where we had the kicker and the captain. Like if you bumped them up and you thought they could get to like 15 in some builds, it's a similar game to this too, where you got all volume guys to where if you get the 2 touchdowns in the game and the kicker kicks 4 or 5 field goals, it could be realistic. But I just don't think that'll ever show up in Sims because it's just an unrealistic expectation for the most part. So I don't know if that made any sense, but
yeah, no, yeah, they're very rarely in there for sure.
Because you're never going to project a kicker to kick 5 field goals. Like it'd be like projecting some player to get 3 touchdowns. Obviously, it could happen.
I mean, there is lines, right? There is sportsbook lines on kickers. So like I'm sure the market's small, so they're not super liquid and sharp, but like they don't have lines on these things without a way to predict it a little bit and make some money on it. So like it does matter. It can happen, but like I think if you just never played kicker and captain in your entire DFS showdown career, you're probably not losing much EV. And again, like how do you quantify this stuff? So like if my thing tells me one lineup you should have, there's probably a reason for it, and gets in my 150. But if you wanted to X out kickers and captain, I think I did that like 4 years ago actually. Like I would just X kickers out and captain.
Yeah. Chris Randone is in the chat. He says, look for Jonnu Smith and Devontae Parker tonight. Interesting, because with Belichick 1 week to the next, it changes. And we were talking about this with Damian Harris. He's back. He's a favorite. 844 watching, only 300 likes. Very, very disappointing. I'm actually disgusted and thinking of leaving right now. But I won't, out of respect for Tony and Brick's time. Thank you for coming on. Big T, 9 minutes left until 4 o'clock. We've got other shows coming up here. If you're not a member, go ahead. Check us out at Run Pure Sports. You're going to have core plays up tonight, Big T's player pool. And there will be an Up to Lock show that covers NBA. And they might talk some showdown as well. Final thoughts on this game. Talk to me about, besides Harris, who else are you looking at your highest ownership in the captain spot, and thoughts on whether or not you're going to watch this game and whether or not you're going to be able to sit through it.
Well, luckily on Monday nights, I got to take my son he's got practice on Monday, so I won't have to watch the full game. I will watch some of it. And yeah, I mean, it's gonna be an ugly one, but like always, it's a milli maker up top. And if you've ever wanted to take chances, I do agree with Brick on these bigger like showdowns that are ugly like this, where it's $1 million to first. We use this example a ton on these shows, but pretend you're going to dinner and a movie with someone. Just light $50 on fire in these tournaments. What is it? $15 tonight, 10, 15, whatever it is on DraftKings. It doesn't matter. Put 2-inch. I think the best way to do it for people like that, do like 2 crazy builds and 2 chalky builds, where you got 2 that could be duped a ton of times, and then 2 that maybe you get a little crazier and leave 5K on the table. Put volume guys. At least that's my plan, to put volume guys. I like Brick's build. So, I mean, we're closer than most people probably think with the way we build, even though it's different. And build 4 or 5 volume type guys, running backs, quarterbacks, obviously, and then leave salary and go down to any of these cheaper guys. And some of the guys in the mid-range too that I think give pretty good value in showdown are these receivers in the mid-range that are, let's say, 5,800 to 4,800, like Dante Pettis, Aguilar if he's in, ESB, Velus Jones is a little cheaper, but these guys that don't project good, like, just for example, the Patriots D tonight's going to be 30+% owned. They're 5,600. Or you could play Dante Pettis at 5,200, whose projection is half. He's going to be 10% or owned or less. Pivoting from New England's D to Dante Pettis, who also looked good versus Washington. I'll just throw that out there. He looked pretty good versus Washington. I think just by doing that alone, if you built a really chalky team with the Patriots D and just pivoted to one of these mid-range guys, the projection's going to be worse, but you have a way better chance to be unique. And all it takes one house call. Dante Pettis, 50-yard touchdown. He's going to outscore the defense unless the defense scores once or twice, which they could. But trust me, if you knew Pettis was going to score, you would have a massive edge. I think doing that is very good. And I don't know. So I just think the Bears want to let them run. I know some people will try to make this New England passing game happen. I just want to play the New England running game. And you can get way more creative on the Chicago side because, let's face it, their offense is terrible. It could be literally almost anything on the Chicago side. Get more creative on the Chicago side. New England running backs, I'll probably fade the passing game for the most part. I'm not saying I'm going to full fade at all, but for the most part, like if I was playing 5 builds, I would be New England running game, fade the D, play whoever you want on Chicago, kind of mix and match, leave salary. That's my general plan. But like always, I'll have my core, my player pool up on the site. After I always want to see the inactives in games too, like Brick was talking about, where we got a lot of cheap guys in this game. I mean, I don't even know who's like questionable of being in and out, but like Wesco, Kendrick Bourne, Kevin Harris, Ebner. I mean, there's literally like 8 guys that are going to be under 1,000 that, yeah, they suck. Their projection's bad, but we see it every showdown slate. One weird guy scores. We could sit here and talk about the game for an hour and not talk about whoever this Trevon Wesco dude is. And then he catches a 30-yard touchdown out of the gate, and he's 2% owned. And it's like, oh, man, the slate's over. You aren't going to be able to have the optimal, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. Overall, I think me and Brick are closer than most people think as far as that. And, yeah, New England running game, Chicago, get a little crazy. That's my plan for the evening.
And one last thought here, because people in chat are mentioning this guy, Tyquan Thornton. He scored 2 touchdowns last week out of nowhere. I personally am not chasing the Tyquan Thornton ceiling game on a New England offense that is going to mostly roll on the ground. Big T, your thoughts on him?
So college DFS, our college guy, Bruce, was super heavy on him in college at Baylor, like really talented guy. The problem is it's showdown. Everyone just watched him go off last week. He's got an 8 projection right now, and he's going to be more owned than people think, like probably 20 to 30%.
Yes.
I just don't like the New England passing game.
Yes.
Could these guys get there? Sure. But like I said, I like to eliminate players. I can't get an edge by playing everyone. I'm not good enough. That's just the truth. I'm not good enough. I'm not as good as Brick and these guys at playing everyone. I just can't do it. So my way to narrow the field is just get rid of guys that I don't think are going to hit the winner. When I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll move on to the next slate. I'm fine with that. I'm going to take the stand and not play guys like Thornton. I get why you would. He's explosive. He's a stud. I think he's their most talented receiver, pure talent, but he's also 6,600. So how much is Herbert? Herbert's 5,400. I would still rather play Herbert than a guy like that. Yeah, New England's going to try to stop the run, but the volume is there, and all it takes is one run from Herbert to just snap it off, and I'd rather go that direction personally than a guy like Thornton.
And Thornton, one of those touchdowns on a jet sweep last week. They were missing Harris. Those opportunities are going to go to the running backs this week. So I think you're right on the money there. Brick, where can we find that podcast and final thoughts on this game tonight?
Yeah, okay. Well, let's do the game first. Is because I just want to piggyback on that Thornton. This is one of the interesting things about doing it my way. So the sim saying, almost a complete fade on Thornton, but play him in captain over the field. And so like, I would never come up with that right on my own. I would probably just do what T's doing and fade him. So like, I'm not saying go super high at captain, but what the sims are telling me is if you're going to play him in captain is a better strategy in a huge, large field.
Is that how like a lot of the mid-range receivers end up hitting on the sims, like more captain than utility, just because it's the one big play that gets them home?
Probably. I mean, it's slate dependent, T. So like your overall assessment of the slate, from what I'm hearing from you, is like pretty much exactly what the sims are telling me. A lot of running backs, and you're fading Parker, you're fading Thornton. This is another interesting one here. I'm well over on Montgomery and Montgomery captain, but it's almost completely fading Herbert. Right. So like I wouldn't normally think that, but that's what it's telling me here. Who else does it not like here? St. Brown is well under. And actually, Randone said like if you're going to, it's close, but if you had a choice between like Smith and Henry as building a lineup, like if I said broadly that question, like Smith is probably a better play in a huge field GPP. We're trying to win 500K or whatever it is tonight.
That's one thing I like to do too. Like play, find the best, because Henry's more expensive, I'm sure, right? Henry's 5K.
He's got to be, right? Yeah.
What's I can't even find how much is Jono, JT?
Smith is 24.
24. So build the best possible. These are some of the things I recommend to people. Like build the best possible Hunter Henry team, not worrying about anything. And then just literally go from Henry to Jonnu, and you're leaving 2,600 on the table. It's the same team. They're both a slow white tight end that actually, I don't know if they're both white. But they play like big white dudes.
I think. I mean, he could.
Yeah, Jonnu's probably not white, but point being, they're slow tight ends that have similar upsides. And I don't know. I like that.
Yeah, that you go from Chili's to the workbench with that play.
Exactly. You go from the steakhouse and the bench with the other one.
You take advantage of the fact that there's very little consistency week to week in this New England passing offense, right? I think that's kind of the message there. Brick.
They're not going to want to throw either, I don't think. Like, why do they want to throw in this game unless they somehow get from behind? New England, I just have that. I mean, it was obviously a weather game versus Buffalo last year, but when they can pound people on the ground, like they just do it.
Yeah. Brick, where can people find your podcast so they can listen to that?
We're Lowell's on Peter Overzet's channel, the great Peter Overzet. Come on, guys. And Thursdays, 1:30 Eastern, 12:30 Real America time. It's also on audio. If you're an audio guy, we release it on pod. I do have my own YouTube channel, which I haven't really done content on it for a year, but this, conversation kind of reminds me. I did do like a little theory, like 10 videos when I first started kind of doing YouTube. That I think still holds up. If anyone wants to, it doesn't seem like the YouTube chat is down with my strategy, my ideas here. But
that was only a few people in there.
For some of them who do.
Listen, they're a tough crowd, Brick. Don't take anything.
It's completely fine.
Some days we get wood from them too. It is what it is.
For some of them who do eventually want to get on that workbench, you might maybe just
anyone
check
that's good should want to hear all the stuff anyways. Whether you believe it or not, you should want to know all the different strategies because it's going to make you better.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, listen to a lot of the just DFS stuff, out there that even if you don't like it, I consume a lot more than I probably should, honestly, but it can only help you. But like just along these kind of small strategies, because Showdown is a real strategic game, more so than I think classic NFL. It's still strategic, but there you're really trying to find some plays and small edges and stuff and put the pieces together in some sort of stack. Showdown's really strategic. It's a fun game. It's getting pretty sharp. So that kind of sucks, right? When the sharper it gets, the harder it is. But do I have anything else? I don't think I got a Twitch channel too that simulcasts, and it's all under my name, Brian Hooper or Brick75. You should find. Oh, I have a website, Brick75. I give away free ownership for MMA and PGA. So Thursdays and Saturdays. So you just got to sign up on my website. That's free. And I have a sports HUD tool where you could take like Run Pure's numbers and overlay them on the sports book and stuff.
What's the name of the website?
Yeah. And it's got like a best ball tool. I don't know if Run Pure does best ball rankings at the beginning of the year, but you could overlay that right on Underdog or whatever you're using and use Big T's numbers right on there instead of going back and forth between the website. It just makes it a little bit easier.
That's excellent. It sounds like a great tool to overlay the projections on the sportsbook to give you the idea of which lines offer the best value. Tell us where to find that site. Brick75.com. Excellent.
But it was nice working with you guys. Thank you for the contract. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on.
Easy enough. Big T will be in your texting you later with talks of an extension. So for Brian Hooper and for Big T, Simon behind the scenes. Simon, get us out of here. Good luck tonight, everybody.